Hi, my name is Sadaf, and I am with the recruitment team. I'm the International Recruitment and Admissions Officer. It is my great pleasure today to introduce you to some of our amazing students and our staff from the Forensic Science team. Now, before we get started here in Toronto and across Canada, it's very important to acknowledge the land in which the University of Toronto operates. It's a personal connection. I am working on Indigenous land today, so please join me in the acknowledgement and listening. We wish to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the home of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still a home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're very grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So thank you so much for joining us today. Who's here? Let's talk a little bit about that. Oh, look at these lovely photos. Wonderful. So I introduced myself. Not only am I working at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, I'm a very proud alum. So very excited to share with you in this space some of our amazing students that have joined us today, but we'll pass it first to Murray.
Hi, everybody. My name is Murray Clayton. I'm the Program Officer for Forensic Science, and I'm also the Outreach Coordinator, which means that essentially I'm responsible for making sure that you guys are getting the most valuable education that you can while you're here at UTM. I'm in charge of student experiences. I'm in charge of some volunteer groups that we run with the program. And I'm also in charge of a lot of administrative work behind the scenes that makes it run efficiently and effectively. So I will be talking very briefly today about some of that stuff with you guys as well.
Thank you so much, Murray. And from our forensics team, lovely students joining us today, we'll start with Taylor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor. I'm in my third year doing the forensic anthropology specialist, and I'm joining you all from Kitchener, Ontario. So I'm not very far out of Mississauga.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And Lourdes, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lourdes. I'm in fourth year. I'm double majoring in forensic science and biology for health science. And today I'm joining from Hamilton, Ontario.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lourdes. And Esme.
Hi, my name's Esme. I am a third year student. I'm an anthropology and classical civilizations double major, and I'm in the forensic science minor program. And I'm from New Brunswick.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Esme. And last but not least, we have one of our staff members joining us, Alicia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Singh. So I am a recent graduate. I just graduated this past spring. I'm also a part of the recruitment team here. So I'm going to be behind the scenes on the chat portion, joined by my colleagues, Emily, Tara, and Fatah. So we're going to be able to answer all the questions that you guys have throughout the chat. And then at the end, I will be sharing all those questions so that Sadaf can pose it to our panelists so that they can also answer your questions live.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alicia. So just as you know, we have the chat feature. Some of you have been writing in. As Alicia mentioned, our fantastic team are behind the scenes making sure to get those answers. If you have any other questions, you're able to use the Q&A feature as well to pose to our wonderful student panelists who will be joining us after a bit of an intro from Murray about the forensic science program. So think about your questions. You'll hear a bit more about their story, so maybe you'll think of questions along the way. This is the space to really dive into deeper about this program. So Murray, with that, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, just by you guys being here, already this is your first introduction into a very prestigious program. It is the oldest forensic science program in Canada. And as such, we get a lot of really awesome experiences. So just some of the photos that you're seeing on the slideshow are part of student experiences that have happened in the past about 2 years. I'd say that COVID kind of put a halt on some of the more cool things, but we're hoping that by the time you guys get back in, we can get the full experience back up and running again. From independent research, so the car fire picture is where a student was looking at the decomposition of remains in vehicular fires. We've had the canine units and their trainings on our campus as well. In the bottom picture there, you'll see some of our advanced forensic identification students doing some field work. And then in the top right corner, I have a picture of the TV show Coroner, which is now in its 3rd season, which actually hired some of our students as consultants and to be on camera for the show. So those are the kinds of connections that we're fostering in the real world in this program. So just a very quick overview, and some of you may know this already, but I want to just remind you guys about how you actually get your degree or your Bachelor of Science in forensic science. So there's quite a few ways that you can do this. And one of the most general ways is getting what's called a forensic science major. Now, when you do the forensic science major, you are expected to double major in forensic science and another field. And so these are usually anthropology, biology, chemistry, or psychology. Now, essentially, you're doing 2 degrees to complete this double major. However, there's also the chance to focus and specialize in an area of forensic science. So forensic anthropology, which is the study and identification of human remains, forensic biology, which is ancestry and genetics through DNA and human tissue testing, forensic chemistry, which is the identification of unknown samples and evidence in a lab setting, and forensic psychology, which at UTM means the study of criminal minds and behavior and how they operate, but also how forensic scientists and the justice system is perceived and has intrinsic bias in forensic science and how that affects the world around us. So, as a general overview of careers you may have in forensic science, now some of you may just think forensic science sounds really cool, I want to be in that program. And then some others of you may already have a career in mind. So this is a good way to prepare yourself now for the trajectory that you want to go through. Now, if you're interested in being on a crime scene, and that means collecting evidence, taking fingerprints, looking at blood spatter analysis, then you're most likely going to want to be a scene of crimes officer. And there's 2 ways to do this. You could graduate from your forensic science degree and take a certification to be a special constable, and that's it, you're on the scene. Now, the only downside to that is that you won't really grow through the ranks to become a detective, a lead detective, or a lead director of a crime scene investigation. To do that, you would want to join the police academy after an undergraduate degree. An undergraduate degree is required to join the police academy now. However, forensic science is a great one because you get to learn all these hands-on tools and trainings through our program, which prepares you for that academy training later. And usually after about 3 to 7 years after the police academy is when you start to be a lead detective for these kinds of crime scenes. So if any of that interests you, you're probably going to be looking at taking the general forensic science major, because that's the degree that's really going to get you into those crime scene investigation methodology classes. If you're more interested in working in the lab, let's say being on the scene is maybe a bit too gross or a bit too stressful for you, you really feel comfortable in a lab setting, then you're probably going to look at processing evidence. And this is something that a toxicologist would do, looking at drunk driving cases or illicit drug cases. A ballistics analyst who looks at guns and explosives. A chemist, like I said, looks at identifying unknown items. Maybe it's gunshot residue, maybe it's elemental analysis, or even the paint chips of a car and someone's been in a hit and run. And a forensic biologist who will then look at blood samples, saliva, other human tissues and fluids for identification. If you're really interested in death investigation and you want to work in declaring cause of death or working in that medical field, then you're probably interested in being a coroner or a forensic pathologist. And in Ontario, at least, you do have to be a doctor for that requirement. So in other parts of the world, it's a little bit different, but just know that at least in Ontario, you should be looking at getting your doctorate degree after your undergraduate education. And then, of course, for those of you who really just want to make mom and dad happy, I have some parent pleasers here. So you could be a doctor or a pathologist after your undergraduate degree in forensic science. Now, you would have to go to medical school for that. Same with if you wanted to be a forensic odontologist, which is someone who looks at teeth, you'd have to go to dentistry school. And if you wanted to be a lawyer, a defense lawyer, or a crown attorney, you would have to go to law school. So all of those things require an undergraduate degree. And an undergraduate degree in forensic science specifically gives you the foundational training to continue on through those career paths. I also have forensic anthropologist there, which does require a PhD, which is graduate school. I have that because that was my undergraduate degree, was anthropology. So it's near and dear to my heart. It may not be so much a parent pleaser as a parent confuser, as you try and explain to them what a forensic anthropologist actually does. Now in these pictures I have on this slide, we have Eugene Lischio in the top left there, who's looking at a 3D scanning technology. So we have a really great 3D technology for, forensic course where we're looking at, how to recreate crime scenes, how to estimate the trajectory of blood spatter, all that kind of stuff using new technologies. In the bottom right-hand corner is Crown Attorney Caitlin Pakosh, who's actually a graduate of our program and works out of, I believe, Markham, Brampton, and Hamilton. And she also teaches some of the courses in our program too. So you can see it kind of comes full circle in a really great way. I want to also talk a little bit about forensic science and what we do for the community. So we have something called the outreach program. In your upper years, third year, fourth year, typically, you can start to engage with members of the public, teaching them things that you've just learned. So we run a very cool summer camp for kids that are around 9 to 13 years old. We have a high school program where either we go to high schools with engagement packages or they come to us and we teach them about the world of forensic science. And so this is something that's really cool that you can get involved in your upper years. Not only is it just fun, but also it's something really great for your resume of activities when it comes time to be hired for that job that you want. You can say, yes, I work really well with the public. I communicate really well. I know how to engage with people and help them understand the very complex science that I know very well. And of course, all of that is a demonstration of your employable skills. And isn't that the point? To try and get you hired at the end of your 4 years. I'm going to finish this small presentation just with a little talk about why we choose forensic science. And it's really important for you guys to know that this is an intense and stressful program. And you need to be in it for the right reasons, right? So a lot of people will see something cool on TV and say, I want to do that. And then they start and they realize, wow, this is really, really intense, really heavy subject matter, right? The Office of the Chief Coroner of Ontario has a motto and it says, we speak for the dead to protect the living. Now, what this means is that when someone dies, they get their voice taken away from them, right? They cannot tell us what happened to them. And so we are there to answer those questions for them. We're there to provide that voice back. Because, when someone dies or goes missing, it's a very traumatic experience for the family and for the loved ones that are left behind. And even the smallest of answers can go a long way in bringing closure for those families. And it's really important that we know what we do and we do it very, very well, because even the smallest little bit will contribute to the whole community. And, if that's something that you want to be a part of, then forensic science really is the place for you. And like I said, just know that it can be very, very intense. It can be very stressful at times during your undergraduate degree. But we do provide resiliency training for forensic science as a part of the curriculum. And there are really great resources on campus to help you through that journey as an undergraduate. So that's pretty much it from me, for my portion of the talk. And if you have questions specifically directed for the program, we're going to hold those to the end. And for now, I'm just going to hop on to the, well, I guess I'll hand it back to you, Sadaf.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for going over some of those details. I think there is a lot of excitement, but also some confusion about the differences because, like you mentioned, like some of the reality of the TV shows that we watch, one person might do all of the different things when in reality that might not be the case. So
absolutely,
I think it's important to kind of bridge what's happening in reality versus what's happening for drama on TV. So thank you for that. There have been a couple of questions. I'm wondering if we could take a couple of these just right from the get-go while you're on the topic.
Yeah, sure.
So one person was wondering, who is the person that collects evidence? What's that called again?
So evidence collection is called a scene of crime officer, or SOCO, S-O-C-O. They might also be called a special constable. And there's two ways to get into that particular role as evidence collector. They're also called an ident officer or an identification officer. And like I said, so you can actually apply for those kinds of civilian positions right after the undergraduate degree. And many of our graduates who are interested in police work do actually successfully land in those roles, which is fantastic. You can actually see a bunch of those alumni on our website. Otherwise, you can go through the regular routes of going through the police academy to get into a crime investigation or ident role like that.
Wonderful, and that leads perfectly to Rose's question. Like, so if someone doesn't want to pursue a master's, is there opportunities for jobs and careers straight out of the undergraduate forensic science program?
Yes, absolutely there is. So the one thing to realize with forensic science is that it's a very broad discipline. You may not realize the sort of job that you're looking for until the end of your 4th year. And then when it comes time to graduate, you thought, oh, I came in to be a forensic biologist, but instead I'm finding work in other biology labs that maybe aren't anything to do with forensics. But you're applying your forensic skills to unique methods of investigation and analysis. Or vice versa, right? You could be applying to any job, but as long as it applies to the law or has an application to the law, that's when it becomes forensic.
Awesome. And
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there are great opportunities. There's a breadth of opportunities. It's just that you have to sort of do a bit of exploring to see what kind of jobs are out there, because there's so many that it can be a bit overwhelming, especially when it comes time to preparing your education for those careers.
Absolutely. And maybe one last question before we turn over to our amazing student panel. Someone was wondering, are international students able to pursue opportunities in Canada after completing this program?
So that's when it sort of goes into a bit of the work visa kind of thing. So you do need a work permit to be able to work after if you're not a permanent resident. You can apply for your permanent residency after 2 years in Canada, I do believe. But having said that, within the 4 years that you're a student here, you will still be guaranteed, if you're in the specialist degree, an internship in forensic science. And that's when you can start to make connections to proper professionals in the field.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I would add the caveat, again, we're not immigration specialists or work specialists, and we do have licensed folks with the International Education Center. Just a plug, I will be hosting a few of those sessions if you are international students with that. But let's turn over to our student panel. Thank you so much, Murray.
No problem.
Don't run away. We will have questions for you. They're coming in right now. But if we can get our student panel back on camera. We have Taylor, Lourdes, and Esme joining us today.
The host has to start the video again.
Okay, I will start all of your videos. Thank you so much for that. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. So Murray gave a great overview. I want to know if we can just start off by saying, kind of going down the line, maybe again, what program you started off with, what program you might be in now, and kind of the decision to pick U of T Mississauga and to pick forensics as your main objective. So I'll start off with Esme, if you could kind of introduce yourself again and kind of take us through the journey of getting to U of T Mississauga.
Yeah, sure. Wow. So my name's Esme. I'm a 3rd year student. I started off in the forensic anthropology specialist. So I did 2 years, well, I did my first general year of forensic science, and then I did 1 full year in the forensic anthropology specialist. And then I realized that it didn't provide me enough opportunity to explore other areas of interest. So through starting off in forensic science, I got to take some archaeology courses, and they ended up really, really interesting me. So I decided to move into the forensic science minor program so that I could explore more of the archaeology and ancient history stuff that I'd been introduced to through forensic science.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and we'll turn it over to Taylor.
Hey, hello everybody again. I'm Taylor, and I started off as general forensics, and then I moved into the forensic science, forensic anthropology specialist. I'm on the opposite end of Esme on that spectrum. I am not a fan of the archaeology courses, but I really loved all of my forensics and my forensic anthropology courses. So I'm now in my 2nd full year of the specialist, and it's a lot of work, but I'm really, really loving it. And I have also dabbled in French at UTM and earth science as well.
Awesome, thank you. And Lourdes, over to you.
So I am in the forensic science major and the biology for health science major. I started off in general forensics as well. And then I ended up in the double major program because I wanted to be able to have more of a balance between my biology and my forensics courses, but still also get that solid foundation in both of the areas. And something I really like about the major is I have a lot of flexibility as to what courses I can take. Similar to what Esme said, I want to be able to have more control over what courses I'm in for what I'm interested in. So the major's been good for doing that.
Thank you so much for that. And anyone listening in, you may have heard Murray talking about the specialist majors and minors, and that is an opportunity that you have at the University of Toronto to diversify your degree, to pursue things that you're interested in, change your mind as you learn that there's other things that you might be interested in. So that's a really great aspect to the degree that you have. Maybe kind of going a little bit deeper, what did you first think like the program is? What were you first interested in, and what is the reality of the program now? Is it what you thought you were studying? At least the things that you're studying now, what do you love about what you're studying? And we'll do it the opposite way. Lourdes, I'll start with you first.
Sure. So in my first year, I had to take all of the sciences, including physics, which wasn't something I was really expecting ahead of starting, because for the forensic biology, you have to take physics in your first year. And that was kind of when I started to get a sense that I wanted to do more general stuff rather than the specialist, because the specialist is very rigid in the courses that you have to take. When I started in first year, I wanted to be a forensic pathologist and go to medical school. That is not what I want to do anymore. That's a lot of school. That's 13 years of university. So I've strayed away from that, and I'm hoping to pursue a master's that's not in forensics after I finish my undergrad.
Great. And Taylor?
I seem to be always on the opposite end of the spectrum here.
That's good. It's good to have spectrum. It's good to have spectrum.
But no, I definitely enjoy the rigidity that comes with the specialist program, because when I was researching, I've always wanted to do forensic anthropology since I was like 11. So when I was researching universities, if you've been researching forensic science programs, there's not a whole bunch that are specialized within Canada. So when I came across UTM and I saw that they had a specific forensic anthropology program, I was so drawn to it right away. So it's different than I expected it to be, because again, 11-year-old me watching bones on TV is not the same thing as learning it in a classroom. But I definitely enjoy all of my classes, even though some of them are much harder than expected. But I definitely recommend the program. If you think you'll love it, you probably will.
That's great advice. And Esme, over to you.
Yeah, so Taylor and I are very different people. Murray was talking about this earlier. The parent pleaser is maybe the reason that I initially ended up in the forensic science program, because I really love history, and I really love, similar to Taylor watching Bones, I watched Indiana Jones, and that was what I wanted to do. So I've always been interested in archaeology and the ancient history and classics, and that wasn't something that was science oriented enough for my parents. So I think that's why I chose forensic anthropology, because it allowed me to explore those interests while still keeping it technically science. I have since then owned up to being disappointing in the eyes of my parents. So I have embraced the more archaeological side of things, but I think that that's a very real reason, is it does blend the science and the social science if you're looking for that blend.
I'm going to step right in and say you could never be a disappointment. I'm sorry. You are so lovely. So if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please feel free to ask them in the chat or the Q&A. We do have our chat folks there, but I'm going to kind of go around with my own questions until other questions come up, because I'm so very fascinated to learn more about these three very different journeys and very different processes over the same topic. Taylor, I'm going to start with you this time. Have there been any courses that you've really enjoyed in the program? Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So right now, actually, I didn't expect to love this course as much as I do, but right now I'm taking ANT 415, which is faunal archaeosteology. And it's basically looking at animal bones for 3 hours every Wednesday night. And it is so much fun. The prof is really nice. Dr. Brand is fantastic. And it's just so much fun to sit there and actually just like go through the skeletons, because it's been a whole whirlwind third year with COVID and everything going on. But this has been a really fun course. We've actually gotten to go to campus and participate in, and a little not part of the program, but literally the best course I've taken at UTM is ERS 101, I think. It's called Planet Earth. You get to play with rocks, and it was fantastic. Loved it so much.
I love it. I love your enthusiasm over it too. So you really have to love it, and you will, like you said. Lourdes, we chatted a little bit earlier. You were chatting a bit more about chatting with professors, maybe working towards research ideas and projects. Can you talk a little bit more about that journey for yourself and what you're currently working on?
For sure. So in my third year, I was in class and our professor asked us to brainstorm how you would go about starting a research project. And my friend volunteered me to speak about my proposal to the class. And the professor asked me to stay after class, and I thought I was in trouble. But then it turned out that she was really interested in my idea and was saying that that really lines up with the kind of things that she would like to research. So from that, I've been able to do some research assistant work with her, and I'm currently doing an FSC 489 advanced independent project with her, and we're currently looking at deaths in custody, so in correctional facilities or penitentiaries that are related to opioid deaths.
I mean, very interesting. And I think one of the key points from that story that I take away is that courage to speak to a professor. What was that like? I know you got voluntold, but was it like confusing, hard, difficult? Did they seem really scary? What was that process of connecting with a professor?
Something that I really like about the forensics courses is it's a smaller class environment. So I wasn't being volunteered to talk in front of 500 people. It was more like 20 people. So it was a lot easier to share my ideas. And honestly, the forensics professors are probably the nicest professors at UTM. I've never had a forensics professor that I don't love. So they're really, really nice to talk to, and they really like to engage with the students. So you have to do a lot of talking in class if you end up in the upper year forensics courses. So getting used to speaking in front of the class is something you have to do.
I mean, that's definitely something that I realized when I was a student, that, these are world-renowned professors leading their field. Like I know at U of T Mississauga, we have Tracy and, people literally setting the course of the field of forensic studies, teaching your classes, but realizing they're also just people and they want to help others get through that journey. Thank you so much, Lourdes, for sharing that. Esme, on to you. Like you talked a bit more about your research opportunity was in archaeological areas, being Indiana Jones. Do you want to highlight a bit of that and then maybe talk about your work study experience abroad? Some people have asked about international experiences.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of my undergrad being involved in research. It's probably my favorite part about UTM is the research opportunities I've been afforded. So in my first year, I actually started as a research assistant in my second semester to a forensic anthropology grad student. And that was just through Murray, actually. He put my name forward, and because I got involved in outreach. So I got to do that. I'm specifically enrolled this year in a research opportunity program course. So it's a course that you enroll in, and it's about archaeological sciences in the ancient Mediterranean. So it's right up my alley. It's archaeology and it's ancient Rome. And yeah, so throughout the semester, you get to work with other students and a professor on this specific research project. And mine is about the ancient Mediterranean, but there are loads of opportunities for that. And they shipped me a microscope that sits in my bedroom, and I look at slides of ancient soil. So this soil that's sitting in my bedroom right now is 3,600 years old, and they just trusted me with it. But in terms of the international research I got to do, in second year, I took a course called UTM 290, which is launching your research. And it's a small seminar-based course that was just learning how to research. And it was students from all kinds of different backgrounds. And we were looking at kind of the history of colonialism. And part of that, I got to go to the Dominican Republic over Reading Week. It was the end of February 2020, so I was lucky to get to go. But yeah, it was a really, really great opportunity. And we all took our research questions to the Dominican Republic. I was specifically looking at volunteering and voluntourism. So going to countries to volunteer for the less fortunate is the term that's often used. And like, why is that a problem? And I got to go to the Dominican Republic and ask people who'd been the beneficiaries of this kind of work, whether it benefited them or not. So I got to go out into the field and talk to people, and it was a really, really great opportunity that even within the forensic science program, you can have access to.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting. I wish I could just kind of follow everyone's journey along with that and be like a little fairy on your shoulder, be like, that seems cool. Now, Taylor, you had shared with me as well that you're looking to kind of extend your research or your study past this undergraduate degree. Lourdes was like, nope, 13 years, not interested. Taylor, how about yourself?
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at possibly doing a research opportunity through my research design class, which I got to take with Dr. Rogers. And we were given the opportunity to possibly submit a paper to a forensics journal if we were willing to put in the effort and the work. So I'm currently working through that. I have not heard back because we all just submitted our papers and our drafts, but hopefully everything goes well with that. But I am looking into doing my master's and hopefully my PhD. I would really like someone to call me Dr. Taylor Corbett one day. So I'm looking right now in the UK because that's been my dream school, my dream area to be. But there are so many cool and interesting programs all throughout the world. So if you are looking for those like out of Canada experiences, grad school in forensics is very diverse and located in very many places around the world.
That's so exciting. And you mentioned Dr. Rogers, and I kind of did as well. Can you tell us who Dr. Rogers is? Like, why is she a big deal at all?
She's awesome. So she is the director of the forensic science program, and she is also a world-renowned forensic anthropologist. So learning from her is an absolute, it blows my mind. But no, she does a lot for us around UTM, and she also runs many of the forensic science programs.
I love it. I mean, the first time that I kind of explored the forensic science realm on the UTM campus, I was taken by the Forensic Society to a house, a special house. Esme, do you want to talk a little bit about what this house is and what it does?
A special house, yes. So there's a house on campus. It's in the background of Murray's Zoom screen, if you can see it there.
Yeah, I'll speak to it spotlights. There we go. This is our CSI house.
Cool. Yeah, so it's a crime scene investigation house where students are given the opportunity to go in and work a mock crime scene, COVID permitting, during some of the forensic identification courses. It's also the house out of which the non-COVID forensic science outreach program is run. So high schools will come in and visit the house, and forensic science students, with the help of Murray, will run these like mock crime scenes for students to walk through. It's really cool hands-on opportunity.
Has everyone, I'm guessing, visits the house? I did. I was very surprised with like just how much work and activity goes along. So I had the opportunity to do, the crime, like the blood splatter analysis and footprint analysis and fingerprint analysis, handwriting analysis. And I was like, wow, like this is a lot of cutting edge technology. Murray, we kind of were asked in the Q&A a little bit earlier about what forensic science may look like in the next 5 to 10 years. You spoke about some upcoming technologies, but what does the program look like for you in the next sort of area?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. And the real answer is that we don't know, because there are constantly new emerging technologies that are coming out. And it's sort of this balance of getting people to accept that new technologies can be better than the methods we're currently using, right? It's really you guys as the wave of the future that are more comfortable with technology, that are going to be the people who are very valuable in getting this kind of stuff accepted, because there's a lot of old people out there who aren't retiring just yet, and they need the brains of a very smart group of future forensic students to show them how it's done, or essentially just to wait for them to retire and then do it themselves the right way, right? And this is the exciting thing about doing a program like this at a university, is you get to see firsthand what new technologies and new research is emerging, right? So just for an example, I was talking about a 3D technologist before. He's actually working on VR simulations of crime scenes. So you can arrive at a crime scene, take a 3D scan, and then you can put on a virtual reality helmet like Oculus Rift or HTC Vive and see what it's like firsthand to be there at the crime scene. So if you're a judge or a juror, you don't have to use your imagination as they describe it, right? You can put yourself right there, which is really cool.
I was going to say, I feel the field is changing based on the students that are coming in and really changing it before our eyes. So that's
Yeah.
Also very exciting to be part of, the top university in Canada, ranked consistently, top 17, top 16 in the entire world, one of the top 10 public institutions in the world. Like, there is something that comes with studying at a university like this, and a very, tight-knit, close forensic science program, working with the leaders of the field. You are really going to make the difference moving forward. It's up to you to really be inspired to do so. And Dr. Taylor Corbett is definitely going to make that difference, and so is Lourdes and Esme, and no matter what you do.
I will also add,
yeah.
Sorry, I just also wanted to add, from a non-technological point of view, there's actually something that we got really lucky in, and that is the legalization of marijuana. So
Go on, Murray.
I'll just let you know that we have some really fantastic forensic chemists and toxicologists as part of our faculty team. And they just came to us from the Center of Forensic Sciences. So they already know exactly how drug testing is working these days. And they're participating in student research about cases like driving while high, driving while intoxicated. And as such, the government is hiring a lot of forensic toxicologists right now, and probably still will be by the time you graduate. So for all of those who are interested in forensic chemistry, that's definitely something to consider, that we've got firsthand professionals who are teaching our courses and preparing you for what your job is actually going to be like once you graduate.
That's awesome. Thank you. Now,
Yeah.
Rosa asked a really poignant question, and I will share it with whoever would like to answer, or all three of you. But the workload is known to be hard, especially at a undergraduate level. What did you do to kind of cope with the stress, or how did you really frame your time, especially in that first year, and of course anything that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I can talk about that, and the others can talk about it too. I think it's really important to talk about this, especially in the wake of what you just said about we're a top 10 institution, we're the best university in Canada. And while these things are true, I think the hardest part about my first year was this kind of imposter syndrome. So I was like, everyone here is smarter than me. My high school attendance could be described as sporadic. Everyone here is like so high achieving and they're excellent. And I had a lot of imposter syndrome of like, why did U of T accept me? And so I think that causes a lot of this first year anxiety that people hear about, is this idea that like, you aren't enough. But in reality, like, U of T accepted me, they accepted me for a reason, and I'm here for a reason. And that's true of everyone. And I think in terms of overcoming the kind of stress of first year university is going to be difficult wherever you go. It's a social adjustment, and it's an adjustment from high school. I think it's more of this kind of mental block of I can't do it, as opposed to it actually being not possible. So I think as long as you like believe in yourself and make sure that you don't feel like you don't deserve to be here, because you obviously do, I think that's the biggest obstacle in terms of overcoming first year stress.
I can hop on next. I think what Esme said is totally true. I went around thinking everyone in my classes was so smart. And I'm not saying that they aren't, because so many people at U of T are so intelligent. It's honestly kind of intimidating, but you have to realize that you, like Esme said, you got accepted. You are an intelligent human and you can do it. Though I did get smacked in first year. Like, it was so difficult for the first month because I wasn't used to that workload. But I bought a planner. And I said, you know what, we're going to plan our time. We can do this. We can figure it out. I figured it out in high school. I can figure it out in university. And I think it also helped trying to put myself out there and go into social situations that I usually wouldn't have in high school, because making friends honestly made my first year so much smoother, because you had other people in a support group around you that were kind of in the same boat as you. And it really helped me in first year.
So I would say that I went into my first year knowing that U of T has that reputation of being very hard, having a really heavy workload. So I went in with the mindset that I'm there to work. I'm there to get stuff done, have some fun while I'm there, make friends as well. But the number one priority is to get the work done. I also joined the dance team because I danced competitively in high school, and there I made a lot of friends that we could get together to work in the library or do our assignments together. And I found, like Taylor said, that having that support group really helps you with stress management because everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody knows how you feel. If you're stressed, somebody else is stressed too. So it helps to have those friends to be able to talk to about the issues. So yeah.
Thank you so much for, the three of you for being vulnerable and sharing some of those experiences and the imposter syndrome. Yes, we get that a lot. And for myself, I'm just starting to work through it. And I'm sure a lot of us feel this, but like Esme said, you were here for a reason. When you're in the program, there are supports that sometimes we don't reach out to. We think we're the only one facing a problem. So whether it's academic support, writing support, emotional support, these supports exist for a reason, and it's for you to call up upon them, use those supports. So maybe I'll throw it back to you three. Have there been any supports that you personally use that you care to share with those that are tuning in, thinking about where not where the exits are, but where the resources are right before they even start?
Yeah, so a couple of resources. Also, I see that Neha asked about it in the chat. Residence. So I lived in residence and I made really strong use of my residence support community. So if you live in residence, you have a Don who's kind of like the social leader of your floor. Taylor was a Don, and you also have a pal. I was a pal in my second year, so that's a person who lives in residence who's in the same program as you, and serves as a more academic guide while your Don is a social guide. I really relied on those people in my first year. So if you're in residence, I strongly encourage you to reach out to those people. They have been through it and they've been through it recently. It's a different situation than talking to a post-grad or someone who were your parents, right? They did university a while ago, probably, and these people are still doing university, so they're a great resource. I also make use of accessibility services. If there's any reason that you think that your performance in classes might be hindered by something that is beyond your control, you should absolutely talk to accessibility services about accommodations. Accessibility services has been my champion throughout undergrad, and they have really got me where I need to be in lots of scenarios. So yeah, I would highly encourage you to make sure that don't think I'm not disabled, I can't use accessibility services. That's a really negative mindset to go in with it. So yeah, if you have any kind of worries about being able to complete coursework, you should talk to them.
So there's a program that the Forensics Science Society runs now. This wasn't around when I was in first year, but I think that it's a really helpful program. It's a mentorship program where you get paired with a upper year student. And so you can ask them questions. They can give you advice about your application. If you have any questions about that for the post. I honestly wish something like that was around when I was in first year, but now I get the joy of helping a first year out, providing the knowledge that I wish I had when I was just starting university. So if you're looking to get some upper year help with managing your course load, prepping for the application, then that would be a really good program to check out.
Yeah, I can actually jump in and touch on all three of those points there. So starting with the MAP program, I'm also a MAP mentor, which I chose to do for the exact same reasons as Lourdes did, because I would have really loved someone to walk me through my application and how to navigate forensic science. Thank God I had my pal in first year, like Esme talked about. Her name was Grace. She was lovely. And she pointed out that I was missing a course that I really needed to hop into. So it was very helpful to have those people there. And as a MAP mentor, I hope that I'm making a difference for my mentees as well. Secondly, accessibility services. I have also used them. And for one of the reasons I never thought I would, I'm severely arachnophobic, and I never thought that that would be an issue at university. But there was spiders in biology. So my prof, actually, the prof for first year bio, directed me to accessibility services, and I was actually able to get exempt from anything in the class that had to do with spiders, which is something I never even thought about. And with residence, yeah, as Esme said, I was the social leader for a year and a half on residence. I loved it so much. If you are thinking about staying in U of T residence, I highly recommend it. It was the best choice I ever made. I met all of my best friends through residence, and it was fantastic. if there's any, like, if you look on the UTM residence site, there's a whole bunch of extra links that tell you more about the resident experience if you're considering it, and I highly recommend checking those out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and speaking of residents, we're having a spring showcase coming up soon where all these wonderful programs, support services will be out, so you can learn a little bit more. Residents will be there as well, and residence is guaranteed for first-year incoming students. However, you don't have to live in res if you don't want to. I was someone who commuted to school. My parents decided to move from Alberta to Toronto or to Mississauga when I decided to go to U of T Mississauga. So the whole bandwagon came along, and there are great supports outside of the ones that we've listed here, and I encourage you to come to these different events to learn a little bit more. Now, we do have a question for anyone that would like to answer it, but so some of you have mentioned that this might not be your career path. Was it difficult changing directions? And do you feel like the forensic science program still benefited you, even if you're not quite sure if you want to pursue forensic science further? And maybe that's more leading towards Lourdes, and then Esme, I'll get to you after that.
So I personally want to pursue public health after I'm done my undergrad. So the biology major has prepped me a little bit for that, but I feel like a lot of the forensics courses I've taken have absolutely prepped me for whatever I end up doing in the future. There's a real focus on like ethics and professionalism all throughout, and learning how to apply that to multiple different disciplines, because you figure there are the 4 different forensic disciplines at the school. So I feel like a lot of the skills in the forensics program are very transferable if that's what you decide you don't want to do forensics anymore. And I feel like the courses that they make you take will be good for no matter what you want to pursue in the future. Like they have research options if you want to do a research-based master's or PhD program. If you want to go to medical school, the courses you have to take will prepare you for that. So I think the forensics program is good no matter what you want to pursue afterwards, whether it's forensics or not.
Me also, yes. I also changed directions. So I agree wholeheartedly with Lourdes. I love the forensic science program, even if it wasn't for me and isn't for me in the way I thought it was going to be. Without my involvement in the forensic science program, I never would have gotten involved in outreach with Murray, where you get to run these workshops for high school students with mock crime scenes. And although I don't see myself in a career in forensic science, outreach is what I want to do with my life. And I never would have had that opportunity at undergrad if I hadn't been in the forensic science program. And again, like Taylor and Lourdes were talking about, you're required to take lots of courses in the forensic science program. And so you're exposed to so many different areas that if I'd come and done like a pure science degree, I wouldn't have been exposed to in the same way. So I got to take the archaeology that I love and the history that I love, and have ended up making my majors because of the forensic science program.
Very well said. And as our time is kind of nearing towards an end, I wanted to give the opportunity for each of you to share a bit of advice. So we have students that were once where you were, they may have been admitted to the program or thinking about this program. What are some of the things that you've learned that you'd like to pass on? And we'll start with Taylor.
Okay, I guess in first year, this is a piece of advice I would have liked someone to give me, is that profs and TAs are not as scary as you think they are. So I wish I had taken advantage more of my TAs, because they are lovely humans. A lot of them are doing their master's or their PhD, or sometimes they're even upper years in your program. And they're lovely. They're always willing to help you and help you understand concepts. And another big thing is don't wait to reach out for help until you're so behind that you can't. As soon as you don't understand something, there is someone to answer your question. And it's always better to ask before it gets out of hand, or the night before a midterm and you don't know what you're doing. It's better to just go ask your question, get your answer, and start to understand the concepts rather than letting it fester.
Great, thank you so much. Great advice for whatever you pursue in life. I think it's important to know that humans are humans all over. So whether they're someone that you really value and respect, they were once where you were, and they were as unsure or just as excited as you are feeling. So Taylor, that's really great advice. Esme, can I move over to you?
Yeah, I think that something that I wish I'd been told coming into U of T specifically is, like we were talking about earlier, there's this U of T's rumor of that U of T is really hard and it's overwhelming. And I think that I wish someone had like sat me down and said that like, it's not actually normal and okay if you're sad. You should be having a good time. And like Lourdes said, we came expecting to work and to learn, but you should want to be doing that working and that learning, even if it's hard. So if you're not, you might have to think about other programs or other opportunities, because it was a huge effort for me to get through my science courses. And I just thought that was part of being an undergrad student. I was supposed to be miserable. I was supposed to be sad. That was supposed to be our experience. It's not, and it doesn't have to be. So if you aren't enjoying something, you shouldn't be doing it, as a rule of thumb, right? And there are days that are hard and there are things that you're not going to like doing, but you should still be happy. So I think that, yeah, don't fall into that. This is how it's supposed to be and this is normal for everyone, because yeah, it doesn't have to be that way.
Esme, you guys are just saying like the things that I need to hear. So I feel like this is a personal therapy session, but you know, there are supports with your academic advisors, your program advisors like Murray in forensics, but there are also supports in my SSP. So using mental health support, things like that. We are a big university and it comes with advantages of having these different supports available to you. So please reach out and please connect. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. And Lourdes, over to you.
So this is kind of similar to what Taylor mentioned about reaching out to TAs and profs. In first year, I was scared to ask them questions because I thought I was going to be bothering them or that they were going to think that I wasn't smart enough to be there. They don't care. That's what they're there for. Ask the questions. Get the help that you need if you don't understand. They're not scary. They're not going to think any less of you because you have a question. The other day, I emailed my professor in a 4th year course to ask what an annotated bibliography was like because I've never written one before. That I want to do well on the assignment, so I asked for help and everything turned out okay. And also, I think that a little bit like what Esme said, the U of Tears thing, if you really aren't enjoying it, it might not be for you. It might be time to look at other things, because at the end of the day, you should love the courses you're taking. You should love the program you're in, and you should be able to look back and say, I would do this again because I really enjoyed my time in the program. You shouldn't regret the choice to come to U of T and pursue forensics.
And exactly with that option of, you know, reaching out to people to get their advice and their support, your mentors, your professors, your TAs, your academic program advisors, we're all here eager, waiting for you to come in so we can help support you. And again, so pass on some of this wisdom that we may think we have, but of course the things that we made mistakes on, and being able to say, hey, like, you know, you are missing a course for your specialist, go see a program advisor, go see an academic advisor. And it happens to all of us, like we're all human. So I'm so excited that we're here and talking about that. Murray, you're not off the hook. Please come on to camera and we're gonna yeah, so what, maybe you've had the chance to work with so many different students along this process. Is there any other advice that you'd like to give to students that are here today? You've seen some of the questions kind of come through. Is there anything else that you'd like to answer?
Yeah, so I am actually going to reiterate something. So for all of you guys, I'm not part of recruitment, right? I'm part of the forensic science program. I'll let Sadaf take over, you know, getting people into the seats. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if you don't want to be in forensics. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. I want you to really enjoy what you're doing. And I want you to be, you know, excited and interested in your career path in this field. I think one of the biggest challenges we have with a lot of students in first year is they think they know what forensic science is, but they're too scared to change their mind, right? There is nothing wrong with you changing your mind, whether it's changing majors, dropping from the forensics major to the forensics minor. These things are all possible in university, right? And you are going to be adults. Most of you are going to be 18 by the time you get in. And so it's really important that you realize that you have the power to change your life, right? You can make these decisions. We are all here to support you, but certainly you need to make sure that you're doing what's right for you. Having said that, let's wrap back around to some of the questions that were in the Q&As. And I think A lot of them were just in general about like, what do I do after I graduate? I'm going to be very blunt. If you're getting into this field for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? You may find very lucrative jobs working for the government. You could be a forensic chemist. You could be a forensic toxicologist working for the government of Ontario, or, you know, whatever province or whatever country. That shouldn't be your driving factor. Your driving factor should be to do something that is honest and valuable to society, that you can do with integrity, right? And the money will come afterwards. If all you care about is getting a lucrative job out of this field, you may be disappointed. For those of you who are interested in forensic anthropology, for example, right? Forensic anthropologists don't really have full-time work. They moonlight when a crime comes in and you get the call at, like Batman, right? And you have to go and deal with that. But your daytime is pretty much either you're working in a lab, in a pathology unit, you're a professor at a university, right? So it's very important for you to know that you need to be doing this because you love it, not just because you want to make mad bank. You may, that's the reality of it, right? But, and we want all of our graduates to be successful. We have an extremely good employability rate after graduation for our graduates, and most of them end up working in the industry, which is fantastic. And that's what we want you to do. But don't get so focused and don't put yourself in that small box of, I need my career set like right now, because I guarantee you it's going to change and you're going to find other things in university that interest you. Forensics is great because it's such a wide program that you could look at different avenues in forensics, right? So maybe you don't want the heavy science and you do want the social science side. That's great. We're nicer in the way that, you know, we're not engineering where you go into engineering, you may hate engineering, but all you can do is be an engineer. We're not quite the same way.
Thank you, Murray, I think it's very important for students to hear the truth about the experiences. So I do appreciate you taking the time just to be very forthcoming, and all of our students here on the panel today. Like, thank you for sharing your expertise, your time, and of course, that bit of advice that I'm sure will help our students make some of those decisions moving forward, or know who to ask for as their mentor when they get to school. So thank you all for sharing those experiences. If you do have further questions, Murray, if you could leave the contact information in the chat, that would be
absolutely
great. I know there are some questions that were quite specific that we weren't able to answer directly, so please do reach out. I can give you Murray's home phone number later if you'd like. No, I'm just kidding. So you can just put in the contact information and contact the team. We're here to support you. Like I said, we're literally waiting to chat with you and help you guide that decision. And that decision might be different than what you thought, but also that decision might be, you know, moving forward. And then when you get to university, like some of our panelists talked about, redeciding. So it is a redecision every year, every time, with every course that you choose to make that journey. And it's okay if it's not a straight trajectory. It rarely is. So if you have a dream of doing something, come talk to Murray, come talk to these students, and think about how to make it into a reality. And as we're kind of making these decisions, it's okay to change your mind. We got a plug to follow at UTM_forensics. See what the students are up to. Definitely, I will follow them right after this session. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Murray. Thank you, Esme. Thank you, Lourdes. Thank you, Taylor.
Oh, one more thing, one more really quick
thing.
We have a spring showcase coming up, and you guys should think about registering for that, because if you were not satisfied with our answers about course enrollment, post, careers, there will be a very, very in-depth video about that for forensics posted in the spring showcase. Okay, so look out for that. It's coming up.
Oh, I love all the plugs. Thank you everyone for joining us, and also follow at UTM Future for any of our upcoming events or activities. Alicia, thank you so much for managing the chat with our fellow colleagues. Fada, Tara, Emily, thank you so much. All right, have a great rest of the day, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for all the thank yous. It was our pleasure to be here today.